Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. It is Tuesday, all day. Appreciate you joining us here at Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle with you as always. Another great show on tap. What is this, June 20th? Yes, sir.
June 20th.
All day long.
Last day of spring.
You're on top of that one. That's John, the producer, for those you that don't know. Appreciate everybody being on board today, wherever you are, whether you're wherever you're listening to us. Appreciate each and every one of you. Whether you're in Fort Wayne, Evansville, up in the region, wherever, or around the country, thank you very much. Lots to get to today. K-Bro will be joining us. Mike DeCourcy, looking forward to that, and Chronic Hoosier as well. Plenty to talk about. The College World Series in action, and man, has it been a blast. We'll talk about the Malik Renew Burger at Big Woods. The NBA draft is coming up. Of course, the Pacers continue their workout. You got Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson-Davis expected to go. I think that they're the only ones that come to mind from around Indiana, but I know that Purdue doesn't have anyone going to my knowledge, and so I can't think of anybody else offhand. Speaking of Purdue, Fletcher Lawyer, and that group, I expect that they will be a much better group this year. We'll touch on that, and whatever else you want to. How are things going with you today, John, the producer?
Things are going good. It's another great day in paradise, as people say. We had a lot of rain yesterday. It was a monsoon in my part of where I live. So hopefully maybe a little less of that today.
Well, to each life, a little rain must fall.
That's true. We all need a little rain.
And you're bragging about it being spring, last day of spring. Well, it's trying to get some spring rains in, man.
I know. Yeah, it's got to get its due in before we switch over to summer.
Thanks to everybody hitting us up early often and on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. You can do the same thing. Those that are listening on YouTube, which you can do as well. Just hit that subscribe and notifications toggle and the like button as well. Appreciate you guys. And while you're at it, give me a follow on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Mobile unit, of course, brought to you by Logos and Promotions, who ironically do all of the merchandising for Big Woods, embroidery work, all that stuff. And if you need any of that, Logos and Promotions does a great job, but they do all the Big Woods work. And that's where the Malik Renew Burger is. Saw a story about that in the Star. We'll talk about that. He was serious about his burger, man. And I'm telling you, there's nothing like a good burger. So there's that. Has anybody had it? I wonder. Ooh, yeah. Has anyone had that? Appreciate everybody hitting me up on the comments. Like I said, good morning to good day to everybody. Fred, Robert, how are you, sir? Dwayne, Leslie, haven't seen you for a minute. Mike, Kenneth, Justin, Bob. Down in the southern part of the state. Kent, up in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Man, I bet it is cool up there this morning. God. There's two, John. Dude.
Oh, yeah, it happens. We all make mistakes. It's
Man.
like we talked about the rain. Sometimes it rains
never do that.
figuratively as well.
I never do that. Let's
I think
talk
it's just
about
the fact that – oh, go ahead.
Well, reading gets me. How about I can't wait till K-Bro comes on. Here come the Reds. Here come the Reds. Guess who's in first place? Guess who's leading their division?
So they passed up the Brewers, right? Because the Brewers were slightly ahead.
The Brewers lost last night. They got their butts kicked 9-1 by the Angels. And let's see, where are we? Gosh darn it. Come on, man. I need to pull up. Oh, doggone it. I'm trying to pull up the standings, and I'm not getting to where I need to get to. Anyway, because I want to see that. I haven't actually seen it for the first time. It's staggering to think that the Reds are leading their division. They won yesterday.
Really, and
they've won 9 straight games, by the way.
So me being somebody who's not the biggest baseball fan, as some people are, do you really think that the Reds can actually hold on to this kind of consistency and make the playoffs this year? Or do you think it's still just a pipe dream?
Can they? Sure, they can, because they're in the Central Division, which is maybe the weakest division in all of baseball. If it's not, it's the Central Division in the American League. But how about the return of Joey Votto, baby? He comes back and just does it. But before I get to that, if you look at the standings in the National League Central Division, your leader by a half game, the Cincinnati Reds, who have won a Major League best 9 straight games. 3 games over 500. How about you? Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would see that. Heath says baseball is so boring. Well, Heath, you need to check out the College World Series, because let me tell you, that has been an absolute blast. They've had 8 games. 6 of those games have been 1-run games decided by 1 run. And all 8 games have been decided by a total of 11 runs. All 8 games have been decided by a total of 11 runs.
Here's what I'm going to say about baseball. I don't think baseball is boring, but baseball is definitely a time investment in multiple ways. First of all, the games themselves, each individual game is very long. And if you love that kind of thing, that's great. But the other part of it is, especially if you follow Major League Baseball, you've got 182 games or something like that. Maybe I'm exaggerating with the number, but
152.
152. It's a lot. It feels like it's oversaturation. And I know that this is professional sports and you get 82 games in the NBA as well, which is a lot. But if you're not into baseball, and specifically Major League Baseball, I think I totally understand where people are coming from saying, and again, I don't really agree that it's boring, but I definitely see why some people are turned off by the sport.
Well, not everybody likes all sports. I mean, that's just
like soccer's a great example too. We talk about soccer every once in a while.
Well, golf. Not everybody likes to watch golf.
Yep, golf's a good example too.
So
I feel like golf. What's entertaining the most about professional golf nowadays is the different personalities. Everybody loves the personalities in golf.
Who's the personality in golf, though?
What's the bearded guy's name? I'm not, again, not a big golf person, but what's the big dude's name who always has the eccentric outfits and stuff like that?
Oh, I don't know who that is. I was thinking Dustin Johnson until you
said
you
mentioned him before, and I think he did well last summer in the Open Championship. I can't remember his name though.
Not Bryson DeChambeau.
Isn't that name actually sounds? Maybe that's not who I'm thinking of. Again, not my wheelhouse, but
that's right. I said 152, 162. Yeah, baseball now has a pitch clock too.
It's not Bryson DeChambeau. I just looked him up. That's not who I'm thinking of. It's a bearded guy. I think his name might even be John. I could be wrong.
Maybe it's John, the producer. John Daly. Oh yeah, you're thinking
John
of
Daly. Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. John Daly. Thank you, John Howell.
Dude, he's awesome. Now, yeah, but he's not on the tour anymore.
But obviously you got guys like Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson used to be personality. I feel like Rory McIlroy used to be a big name. I mean, obviously big names and big personalities are two different things.
The only thing that they've had here of late is the fallout between PGA and Live, and then now they're all back in honey again. Or things all good again.
Isn't there a chance that that's not even going to fall through though? The merger. I heard something about it the other day where that's not like completely finalized.
Well, it's not, I don't think, because the Senate there's a Senate investigation into it, just checking it out. I doubt. I don't know what's going to happen. There's no way that they're going to block it, but I don't know. I mean, maybe because for one thing, it's always an opportunity. Anytime you have something like this in the Senate, it's an opportunity for some people to grandstand that don't know what the hell they're talking about, just to be heard about something. That happens a lot. So we'll see. I don't know how that's going to go, and I don't know what it's ridiculous. I think so. I've already said about that, but yep, Trevino was great. Let's see, though, it used to have characters. Fuzzy Zeller was another one.
He says Craig Stadler as well. Would he fit that category?
Probably, yeah, because he was he was the walrus, a little overweight, had this big old walrus-looking mustache. But in golf is about technique, man. And it cracks me up because you look at all these guys that are on, man, they're on those serious weight regimens and all that. Daly can go out there and just bust it. He's fat as a cow. He spends his week at Hooters during the Masters, and he could still go out there and just bust it 300 yards. I was in a scramble last fall, and a guy I went to school with, after years, people, whatever, and he's pretty large, crushed the ball like nobody there all day. And so, yeah, it's funny how golf is a mental and hand-eye sport, man. But man, it's whew. I wish I could hit it like those boys. Heath says Daly is the Jared Lorenzen of golf. Oh yeah, Jared Lorenzen, the former UK quarterback and New York Giants quarterback in the NFL. Man, he was a big one. He was a big. Man, I cannot believe we've already got to hit a break. Wow, we're rolling. Mike DeCourcy on the program, Kevin Brockway, and Chronic Hoosier today as well. Stay tuned. Back with more Mike DeCourcy right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, one thing I think we should be aware of too, and I've thought about this, and it may take some time to adjust to doing this, and you can disagree too, and maybe you do disagree, but maybe mention, like, for example, when you're talking about the guests, mention obviously who everybody's going to hear, and then mention if you're, I don't want to say if you're not Fort Wayne, because that seems like a negative way to frame it. But
yeah, no, I got you. I'm with you.
Because it also, I don't want, you get what I'm saying. I'm trying to think of how you would phrase it whenever you're mentioning the guests.
Yeah, no, yeah, but bleep that morning stuff out for me, will you?
Yeah.
God, I never do it. You know what? That makes me.
I mean, when you're reading a comment, that makes sense, though. It's easy to.
It's what got me.
Good morning, Mike.
I see. We our host has taken a powder.
He's on his way back. It looks like coming out from underneath the curtain.
Oh man, I can't wait to talk about the Reds.
Oh,
How are you, brother?
I'm great, Jim. How are you?
I cannot complain. Living the dream as always. What is new with you?
Not much.
Well, that's always good.
Yeah, been pretty quiet.
Other than Bob Huggins, right?
Well, yeah, that. I meant me.
Oh, all right. Here we go, guys.
Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat here on this Tuesday. It's June 20th, the last day of spring, as John keeps pointing out. Luckily, we've got Mr. Sunshine, Mike DeCourcy with us from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network. Daggone, I'm just golden with those segues, baby. Golden, Jerry. It's gold. How are you, Mike?
I am doing very well. How are you, Jim?
Great, sir. Just living the dream right now with the Cincinnati Reds atop the National League Central Division standings. I never thought I would say that the rest of my life.
Yeah, it did start to feel that way, didn't it? And then it's turned around really quickly. And I keep flashing back to when the Reds were taking criticism for having sold off so many pieces at the end of the 21 season, entering 22, and the owner basically just said tough instead of saying, no, we got a plan, stick with us, we got a plan. No, he could have said that, but he didn't. He just said, where else you gonna go? And meanwhile, the FC Cincinnati soccer team in MLS is tearing it up, and they are not, they aren't like a little above 500 in first place. They are tearing it up in first place. So a lot of people went to there, and we were watching the game last night, my wife and I, and they're coming off an 8-game winning streak on the road, and it's not like they lit the city on fire. You and I are happy, Deb's happy, but the city hasn't responded to this point. Maybe it'll start to heat up as we go through this week into the Atlanta series on the weekend.
Yeah, he did anger everybody with that. And even if he had said that, what you just said, I don't know if people would have believed him. Because
but they wouldn't have been offended.
No, I agree with you, because he aggravated everybody, and right, they should be aggravated. That was ridiculous. But where they are is amazing to me with what they had done, and how I was like, you look around the league and you could build an all-star team with former Reds players that are everywhere else now.
Yes, as you watch the Reds, you see like on the bottom line or whatever they want to call it on Bally, they flash the stat leaders, and you see Castellano every now and then, and it reminds you of what walked out the door. Moustakas was on the Colorado team last night, and he's hitting, I think, 280 or something. I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe I'm thinking of a split stat, but his numbers have been much better since he left the Reds than they were when he was wearing the uniform. And so it does seem strange, but they do have a lot of really talented young players. And Jonathan India's growth as a second-year player, no sophomore slump for him, man. He's gotten better and more valuable. And he's a very identifiable player, which I think helps the Reds as well. They got a lot of guys that you wouldn't be able to pick out of the proverbial police lineup. Not that any of them would be in a police lineup, but just a lot of guys that don't have many distinguishing characteristics. So India is kind of an identifiable guy that can stand out for the Reds and can be somebody that fans gravitate to and identify with.
Philip asks, is it a plan or is it a fluke?
No, I think there's too much young talent there.
Good question.
To say it's a fluke. I mean, the success they're having right now may be flukish, but if they tend it right, there's enough young talent there that they can be competitive, especially in the division for a while. And then obviously they start to age out of the early contracts that they are assigned, and then the Reds have to start making decisions about who to keep, and that's when it can get tough. But I think that they can be successful with this group. I still think they probably need another starting pitcher, somebody that they can bring in with some experience who can hold up in August and September in really big games if they're going to be successful in this year. And I don't know whether, first of all, I don't know whether that player's out there and available. It may or may not be. Second of all, there is the cost. What is the cost? And do the Reds have the resources to pay it? And then third, do they have the willingness to pay? Not necessarily the salary, because remember, you're only talking about, in a lot of cases, a few months of that salary, but whether they want to part with whatever it would be to get that player. You never know what the cost is going to be. But I was having a conversation by text with a friend of mine who's on the staff at Notre Dame, the basketball staff at Notre Dame, Brian Snow. And I said to him, I think you need to see what happens in July. But if this persists, if they continue to perform well, I mean, obviously they're not going to win every game for the rest of time. If they continue to perform well, then I think you have to take a serious look at investing in at least a short-term rental player to see if that player can push you into at least contention for the pennant.
And how about the return of Joey? Well, you talk about the young talent like De La Cruz, and now you add Joey Votto, the consummate veteran, and man, he comes back off of assignment and does Joey Votto. I
think he maybe outdid Joey Votto. I mean, Joey's been a great player, but to hit a home run in his return and then get the game-winning base hit was extraordinary. And it was really cool to see. He's gone from a really introspective player when he was younger to very expressive and interesting player. I don't think there's anybody who gets the chance to speak with him who doesn't find him to be really interesting and fascinating. So he's come a long way as a person, as well as built a really impressive baseball career as well.
Well, I guess that's enough bragging on my Reds for. But it may not stay. So today's the day, baby. You got to seize the day.
This is true story though. Before we change subjects, Friday night, it was a close game in the Houston series. I can't remember what the score was or whatever. And I said to my wife, I said, they need to get just this one so you don't get out of Houston getting swept. It was tight, and there were maybe guys on or whatever. They need to get this one just so they can get out with being swept, and then they end up sweeping the Astros. So it was really something.
Yeah, amazing. Speaking of baseball, the College World Series has been an absolute blast to watch. I gave a stat a minute ago. Of the 8 games, 6 of them have been one-run games. All 8 games have been decided by a total of 11 runs, and it has been just fun to watch. The College World Series is becoming a mini NCAA basketball tournament as far as excitement, at least this year. I mean, you're really fun. Every game is engaging. It's like you have to watch games until the 9th inning. You have to watch them through or you're going to miss something. And it's just been really fun. It's fun to watch. I'm loving watching these guys get so excited when they get hits. They're having a blast. The NCAA is not coming out and suspended somebody because they have a chain on or something silly. So it's just been fun, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I think it's really helped the College World Series as well for the rest of the event to be opened up. I remember probably 94, maybe, Memphis made a super regional, I believe it was. And I didn't understand even what a super regional was. I didn't understand how any of it worked. And I think, putting the whole show on television now and making it available to people so people understand how it works and what it means. And so I think it's really helped the College World Series as a enterprise as well, because it's not just, oh, they pick these 8 teams and they send them to Omaha. I mean, they have a very fair and interesting process to get that far. The double elimination. It's not just, it's not just one bad day gets you beat and you're out, and it shouldn't be in baseball, because it's such a a variable sport. Teams can play so badly one day and so great the next. So it is great that they have that format and system, and I think that that's really helped make what happens in Omaha even better. If only the weather would cooperate. They've had to dodge a lot of raindrops and thunderstorms and such out there. But last night with LSU and Wake finally getting on the field together, the two best teams, the two teams have had the most successful seasons, I guess, is the fairest way to put it. It's been really really entertaining for fans to watch, no doubt.
Well, and LSU's number 2, I think. Wake Forest number 1. I think it's been since 1991 that the number 1 team wins the thing, and it was Miami.
Wow. I did not know that. I did not know that.
I think it's 91, and they're like, oh my gosh, because you're like, don't put that number 1 tag on me, baby, because you're guaranteed not to win. But man, Wake Forest, they're in pretty good shape right now to break that streak.
Absolutely. They have a great chance to win it all, no doubt. What's been interesting is that in their regional and super regional, I mean, they were just destroying teams with their bats, and that hasn't happened in Omaha. They have not hit the same way. I guess that's what you'd expect as you get the best teams together and they see better pitching. But I mean, I think they scored like 24 runs in one of their games. I think it was they played Alabama. I think it was in the super regional. It might have been in the regional. They scored, I think it was 24-5 was the final score at that level of the NCAA is really impressive. So yeah, it's been really cool. And obviously they've got a week or so more of really interesting competition.
Yeah. And watching these teams, there's so many guys that are going to be these are all top 10, like the top 10 of the draft are playing right now. It seems like, and for all these in the pitching, but Wake Forest, I'm trying to think in my mind. So they're in North Carolina. So that's about even with Kentucky as laterally on a map. That's as far I wonder what the furthest northern team to win it has been. They may be.
Didn't have Oregon State win it a while back.
Yeah, but I don't know if I count them as north. I know you're right. You're right from that standpoint.
Or whatever.
Yeah, you're right from that standpoint. Absolutely. But it's that weather thing, man. That weather band. Teams from outside of that circle can get in there. It seems, but they're pushing.
I mean, it's hard, obviously. If you're a great baseball player, you're going to want to go whether you're not going to have to fight the weather to get on the field. If you have options, and if that's your goal, if baseball is your goal. Now, there might be some really good college baseball players who might choose a Michigan or a Notre Dame or wherever because they want that particular education, and they may not see themselves as being major leaguers in the future, whatever. But if you're oriented toward playing college baseball and then eventually entering professional baseball, it's just it's geography. You're going to go somewhere where it's going to be warm all the time, and you don't have to worry as much about whether you're going to be able to play, and you can play longer. So as you know, a lot of the college baseball teams will spend the start of their seasons in Arizona or Texas or Florida, so that they can get on the field and play, and then eventually migrate back north and play home games and league games. But a lot of them do that. So it just makes sense. But yes, Oregon State, 3-time College World Series champions, including 2018. So, it's pretty far north.
Yes, I'm going to give you that one on a technicality, West Coast team. But yeah, you're right on that.
I don't know this for a fact, because I'm not. I mean, I know I'm not that bad at geography, but I would venture to say that Corvallis, Oregon's probably farther north than us, wouldn't it be?
Oh,
I
absolutely.
have to look at a map. I don't know.
No, without you don't even have to do that. Without question, it is.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's up there. I lived in Washington. I felt like I was on the moon one time when I lived out there. But yeah, it's. But what like teams that are in the Big Ten is like. You just talked about recruiting, and it's like, man, that makes it harder for coaches in the Big Ten to recruit the best players, and then the players, and they're like, man, it's so hard for us. They have to look at that it's so hard to get. Everybody wants to play in the super regional or whatever, and but
look at it this way, Jim. When's the last time somebody from Florida won the college hockey championship? Right? The college, right? I mean, so
that's
it's a trade-off.
That's true.
Big Ten has lots of good hockey teams.
Wrestling, volleyball.
Well,
now that's the amazing one. Volleyball blows my mind. The best conference in women's volleyball, without question, is the Big Ten. And had you put that to me like 5 years ago, that question, I'd have bet you whatever you wanted, because I'm thinking it's going to be Long Beach State, it's going to be UCLA, it's going to be all these teams that have the outside weather just like that, and it's not the case. Wisconsin, Penn State, Nebraska, they're so good in volleyball. It's like I was like, really, mind-boggling.
Yeah, they do a great job. It's been phenomenal. Nebraska, he left out Nebraska. They've had really good women's volleyball teams as well. And Penn State back in the day, I think they've not been quite as good, but it's been interesting to see. They've invested really well in great coaches, and great coaches attract great players, and great players make for a really compelling competition, and so they've had a lot of success in women's volleyball. Like I said, everybody has their niche, and women's volleyball has become a very popular sport from a spectator standpoint. They get really good crowds in those places, and so it's become a much more successful sport financially as well.
Speaking of baseball, Maryland's coach was gotten away to Alabama to fill their spot. So boom, there you go. Big Ten down to the SEC. Hello. And I also noticed yesterday Mexico fired their soccer coach after that 3-0 loss. Was it 3-0 loss to USA?
That's correct. He had been on the job for less than 6 months, basically 6 months, and had coached 7 games, of which he only lost 1. And I will say, I was looking through the Athletic newsletter this morning, and they said his record was 3-3-1. And this drives me crazy. Okay, just because England says wins, draws, losses, that is not how we do it here. So I mean, like in sporting news, we use the W, L, and D, so you know what it is, because it is confusing. So it'll be whichever order we put it in. We use the W, win, loss, draw with the number, so you know what it is. But I know when I looked at that, I'm like, I already knew that he'd only lost 1 game, but otherwise I would have thought his record was 3 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw, because that's how America does it in that. So just because England does it that way in soccer doesn't mean we have to.
That's right. They don't drive on the right side of the road. So
exactly. So that's what we should do, right? When we're driving to a soccer game, we should drive on the other side of the road. Is that how we do it? No. Exactly. People get hurt.
Oh, we've got to take a break. The great Mike DeCourcy is with us. Indiana Sports Beat back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I'd probably talk about the draft coming up and Trace and Jalen Jafino, just anything that you have looked at. Fletcher Lawyer and those guys, man, they're going to be good this year. How good? Yeah. I mean, Purdue should be better this year
We talk about these guys going to the draft. They got everybody back. They've got their core back. They've got Mason Gillis back too. I mean, he's got to be a senior by now.
And Miles Colvin coming in. I think he made the U19s. Did he make the U19s? I think he did.
I think he did. But yeah, they're going to be. Ooh.
Yep, he made it. He'll be on the team that goes to Hungary. Tries to play, and Purdue has had players play. Caleb first played on the championship team in 2021, I guess it was, and they actually played against Zach Edey, who was playing for Canada at the time.
I mean, he's the top 60 guard. That's going to add a lot of athleticism to their
right.
front.
Yeah, and you expect that Fletcher Lawyer will be better as a sophomore, bigger, stronger. Braden Smith will be more experienced. I think they're going to be really good. I know that people want to abandon them because they've struggled in the tournament, but I think they're going to be really good.
There's no reason they won't be. I mean, they've just added. All they've done is add.
Right.
Positive things.
Exactly.
May not be. That's gonna be. Boy, it should be. The Big Ten should be fun.
It's gonna be better again than people think.
I mean, Indiana's got. I don't know what they're going to actually be like because there are so many different faces, but they have a lot of talent. We know Michigan State, Illinois, Ohio State's kind of sneaking up probably. Maryland, they've been having great recruiting.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if San Diego State, will we go stay or will they go?
They're going to go. They'll be in the Pac-12. I don't know why the Pac-12 is having so much difficulty getting this thing squared away, but San Diego State will end up in the Pac-12 without a doubt.
I'd go.
Yeah, it's going to happen, and I don't buy that the Pac-12 is going to fall apart either.
It almost can't. It's almost required to have a conference out west.
Yeah, exactly.
A power conference.
Yes,
and there's too many schools out there, good schools.
All right, 30 seconds, guys.
Throughout the Bloomington area is a fresh, home-cooked, nutritious meal prep that we cook up. The Fresh Fork takes care of all the planning, shopping, and prepping and can even deliver them to your doorstep once a week. That's right, it's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat here on this Tuesday, June 20th. Thanks a lot for joining us. Mr. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News with us. We've talked about all things, and now the NBA draft coming up on Thursday. Of course, Victor Wembanyama. Everybody talking about him being the biggest sensation since LeBron James, and I know he's getting the most buzz, but is he as good as LeBron James as far as the different things he can do at that age or at that time? He can do things that LeBron can't. For one thing, he's 7'12" or whatever tall he is. I didn't realize he was as big as he is. My gosh, is he 7'4" or 5?
He's 7'4" or 5. Yeah, I mean, and he's extraordinarily skilled. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it translates. We remember when Ralph Sampson came into the NBA, and he could do a lot of the things that Wembanyama could do, but he didn't become a truly dominant NBA player. He was a significant NBA player, but he didn't become truly dominant. He wasn't Shaq. He wasn't Kareem. He wasn't Larry Bird. He wasn't Magic. He was a very good NBA player. There's no doubt. But I'm interested to see how it works. He was very, very good, if not excellent, in his league in Europe. But it's obviously not the same level of competition. He's going to be a problem for teams that play against him. There isn't any question about that. But does he become? Look, I saw LeBron James. I haven't seen Victor in person. I saw LeBron James as a rising high school junior and knew I had just seen the greatest basketball prospect in history. I wrote it that day. I've cited it a couple of different times in things that I've written. I knew that day. I believe it was a Sunday, might not have been, but it was in New Jersey at the ABCD camp. Watched him play one game and knew I'd seen the greatest player I'd ever seen, greatest prospect I'd ever seen. And he's lived up to that. He's become, in my opinion, the greatest player in the game's history. In the opinion of others, the second or third. So it really becomes just almost a ice cream flavor kind of thing with that. He's in that pantheon. Wembanyama, I hesitate to go beyond LeBron. And my friend Adrian Wojnarowski, who's an excellent basketball writer, the best there is for ESPN, unbelievable reporter, tremendous writer. He believes he's the greatest prospect ever. I don't know that I will go with that, but he's probably seen him in person more than I. As I said, I haven't seen him at all in person, so that limits me a little bit in terms of what I can project. But I do have a curiosity as to what he'll be able to do with his size. Will the size? How does the size impact the game if size doesn't matter as much as it used to? That's another question. Or do we evolve back around to where it does? I mean, games are cyclical. You can see baseball. Home runs still matter, but it's not all there is now. And that happened in 2 years, less than 2 years. They put the pitch clock in. They changed a few rules. And now, homers still matter. They still want you to hit them, but it's not the be all and end all. Now they're stealing bases again. I've even seen bunts. Remember the bunt on Sunday, was it? In the extra inning game? My goodness. Not only was it a bunt, it was a great bunt. So games are cyclical. Maybe we see it turn back around to where the big man matters more. And then Wembanyama's height and length become really tremendous factors along with his incredible basketball skill. So I think he, without a doubt, even more so than LeBron or Michael or even maybe Will Chamberlain and Kareem, the most fascinating prospect in history, because he comes into an NBA that is oriented toward the perimeter. He's good out there, but does it help you to be good as a 7'5" perimeter player? Does it matter if you're 7'5"? How does it help? I think there's just a lot of questions. Not that we'll have negative answers, but interesting answers.
Yeah. Matt Norlander just came out with his mock draft pick, which is a little different than others. He prefaces it by saying, I think these are players that are going to be better sooner. And he has Jalen Hood-Schifino at the number 8 pick, which is much higher than most people have him. He does not have Trace Jackson Davis in his top 30. So just interesting on how he's done that. And it's just a different, because you can look at all the mock drafts and everybody's just pretty much the same. You move some guys around. It's all a guessing game. You know that most guys are going to go in this timeline. Then it gets a little murky from probably 15 to 30. I mean, it starts to change around, but Jalen Hood-Schifino, that would be one slot past the Pacers, I might add, on that pick for Indiana fans. But that would be a great spot for him.
For the Pacers, can I get them interested in Grady Dick? That's because it appears that he will be available. That's my guy in this draft. I love that kid as a player.
Yeah,
I think he is going to have a really good career.
What a great freshman. He had a great year at Kansas, man.
I am mystified by the current evaluation process. You get into the league, and if you can't shoot, they won't play you. But in the drafts or in high school to college evaluation, they're constantly throwing us these 6'7", 6'8" wings who are unbelievable athletes and can't shoot. Why? Grady Dick is a A-level athlete. He's not a C-level athlete. He's an A to A- level athlete, and he can shoot the heck out of it. Why are people not dying to get him? He was ranked 14th in his high school class. Was wrong. He was definitely not 14th. And now I've seen most mock drafts placing him in the 11 to 13 to 14 range. If I'm the Indiana Pacers and he's there, I can't think of many players I would rather have than him. Maybe if Victor Wembanyama falls to 8. But other than that, if Grady Dick is there at number 8, that's the guy that I want on my team. Because you just can't have too many shooters in the league right now. And here's what I really like about him as a player, Jim, is I watched him play a game against Oklahoma. And Oklahoma, they decided to face guard him. They were not going to be beaten by Grady Dick's jump shot. That was their whole approach. They face guarded him the whole game. He couldn't get anything off. And for a lot of players, that frustrates them and they shut down. For a lot of freshmen, they might even leave the gym. But he busted his tail to try to win that game. And because Kansas had fallen behind. They were down like 8-10 points in the second half late at home. And he's still out there busting his tail, getting extra possessions, getting rebounds, getting deflections, the whole thing. I want that guy on my team every day of the week. That's my prediction right now. I'm not saying he's going to be the best player in this draft. I'm saying that I believe that unless he's taken somewhere between 5 and 8, he will be the steal of the draft.
Matt has Jordan Hawkins slotted in for the Pacers spot.
I do that, but I like Dick.
He's a great shooter.
Yeah, I love Jordan Hawkins as a pro. Dynamic athlete, tremendous shooter. I like Dick because you get a little more size there, and so that varies your lineup a little bit. I mean, most of the good shooters you have now are smaller, not small, but Buddy Hield is not a big guy. I mean, he's 6'4", 6'5". That's what you have most of your better shooters. So Dick Brick comes in at 6'8" and changes you up a little bit. But if they're able to get Jordan Hawkins, I think that would be a good pick.
Yeah, Trace Jackson Davis. We'll see how him and Jalen Hood-Schifino wind up. But I don't think Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to go that high. He's everything I've seen him. He's just out right at the lottery pick, right around that, and it's like anywhere between 12 and 15 or 16, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't matter that much to the player at that level. There's not much
contract, baby. That contract difference between that lottery.
No, I meant in the lottery level. It's like it doesn't make you that much more money. I mean, if you're 12 or 14, I mean, it is more money, but it doesn't really change your life. It really all comes down to fit. You want to get picked by where you fit and who gets you. You don't want and preferably a better organization that isn't constantly firing coaches and changing ideas and all that. And next thing you know, you're playing for somebody who doesn't believe in you. And then that's where the money difference comes in. You get the right fit from the start. Then when it's time for your second contract, they love you. You're productive. You get that second contract. You don't have to go searching for it. So that's really what matters for Jalen. And so I hope it goes well for him. And then Trace, I was reading through Seth Davis in The Athletic had a really cool feature yesterday where he does this every year where he goes and he talks to scouts about their futures. And he wants negative feedback. Why, what's wrong with a guy? What's not wrong with a guy? And there were negative comments about Trace. But it was, I didn't find anything new in it. It was same old kind of thing in his case. It doesn't have the perimeter game and all that. We know that. But I think that still, I think he becomes a rotation player fairly quickly, depending on the team that selects him. And if it's a great team, it might be harder for him to get on the floor. I mean, a legitimately great team, I don't know, let's say it's Denver. It's going to be harder for him to get on the floor because they've already got 8 or 9 guys that play for him. But if he gets on a team that needs another guy, I mean, I think he can defend at an NBA level today. I don't have any concern about that. And I think he can be a facilitator. He's a great passer. That's the part that I was disappointed that I didn't see from the evaluators in that Seth article. He's a great passer. He can handle the ball in tight spaces and make a pass. That's what makes Jokic so great, is that he's a great passer. If Jokic just had his game and couldn't pass, he'd be a good player, a very good player, but he wouldn't be the foundation of an NBA champion. The passing is what changes everything. I'm not saying that Trace will be a Jokic. That's not my point. But my point is he can get out there and help you because he can guard at a high level. He can play with his back to the basket, and he can pass facing or he can pass out of the post. I think he will play in the right circumstance and make teams better.
Draymond Green's not out shooting 3-pointers all night. I mean, that's not the same player. I get it, but that's the kind of a role he'll play, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, Dre can. And I think, but I don't know whether Dre was that player. I'd have to look it up. When he was at Michigan State, I mean, he played a lot facing, but I don't know that he was a great 3-point shooter in college. He was a great player, but I don't think that was something. I'm gonna tell you right now how many threes he made at Michigan State. It was in his last year he made 52 out of 134. So by the time he finished, but he started out his first 2 years he made a combined 2 threes. First 2 years made a combined 2 threes, and he played minutes in both those years. So he grew into that. I don't think that Trace is ever going to be a great shooter, but that doesn't mean you can't face up and make shots when it no longer means like your team might lose if you don't post up and score. That's been his burden his entire 4 years at Indiana. If he doesn't post up and score, his team might lose. Now, that's not going to be the case anymore. So I think his offensive game on the perimeter will evolve.
Yeah, he gets to work on it in game-like situations, and he's not been able to do that before. And
because they always needed him close to the goal, and for them, the first couple of years they were scrapping to try to get in. The second couple of years, the third year they certainly scrapped to get in, and the fourth year they were trying to get a good seed and try. They were never a team that was likely to blow you out. So possessions really mattered, and he had to be by the goal. Not because he couldn't do anything else, but because he was so good at that.
What's up next for you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm working on a couple of projects. As long as nothing happens earth-shattering in the college basketball world, I'm not sure how many more fresh articles I'll produce while I'm doing these projects. And now that the U.S. Soccer is through the CONCACAF Nations League and champions of that, and they've hired their coach and Greg Berhalter, or rehired. I don't know what the verb is. I guess gave him a new contract. I don't know. Technically, he was out of work and now he's back at work, but he still has the same job. Very strange linguistically, but. With all that said, I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm working on for a long term.
Well, make sure you are following Mike in every way you can. It's Sporting News and on Twitter for the best in all of sports coverage. Mike, I can't thank you enough as always.
Thanks, Jim.
You bet. Mike DeCourcy joining us as he does each Tuesday here on Indiana Sports Beat. More coming up. Kevin Brockway joins us. K-Bro up next. Aaron says that the Braves are going to win the National League. You're probably right on that one, but we'll talk about that and more as well right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the there's K-Bro.
What's going
on? Sideways, brother.
How are you?
Great. Can you turn your phone sideways?
No. because then I would be like this.
No, you won't.
No, wait. There we go.
Perfect.
He's got it.
Okay.
Are you in Omaha?
Yes.
Let me see that shirt you're wearing.
Well, I'm wearing a Met shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were wearing a Mets shirt. You should be wearing a red shirt.
I know the Reds are doing pretty well.
All right. So how's Omaha? Well, I gotta save it, but
Yeah. No, it's been good so far.
the series has been a freaking blast.
Yeah, a lot of one-run games. It's been very good.
You get to go out and cover it. Man, you're back to being in the real world again.
Something like that.
Here, I think your breakfast is on your lip there. He's the eatingest MFer I've ever seen in my life. That's what I always called him. He's the eatingest MFer I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Outback, live from Outback of Motel 6.
Candlewood Suites.
Candlewood.
Yes.
Should have called it Candlestick.
Yeah.
What else has been happening?
No, just been busy, man. Busy with baseball. It's been fun.
Yeah, that's going to be is Florida 2-0?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
So Florida's 2-0 and Wake Forest is 2-0. Are they the only 2-0 teams?
Yep.
And then is it just there are two other teams left for elimination today?
Well, no, there are 4 other teams left. Yeah.
So neither Wake Forest or Florida have to play today.
Yeah. So Stanford and Virginia are.
Yeah, they're gone.
And LSU and Tennessee play an elimination game today, and so did TCU and Oral Roberts.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Here we go, guys.
It is located next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers. It's one of the most popular gathering spots in Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, here on this Tuesday, June 20th, and we welcome in our favorite K-Bro, Kevin Brockway. How are you, brother?
Good morning, Jim. Beautiful day here in Omaha. It's good to be back in the Midwest for a little bit, and great event, College World Series, and Florida off to a pretty good start. They're 2-0 out here, and this is definitely a bucket list thing, Jim. You should come out here sometime, enjoy some steaks, and take in some great college baseball, great atmosphere, and a beautiful new downtown stadium.
Well, like Justin commenting on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, I love Omaha. Omaha! I love Omaha. I love steaks, of course, but what's the area called? There's an area downtown there, great little area where all the restaurants and bars are.
The Garden District, yeah, the Garden District. They got a spaghetti warehouse down there. They got all sorts of good bars and restaurants and stuff. And it's a really nice city. They really galvanized this event. They really get into it. It's their big event of the year. You could just see it in terms of the number of locals from Omaha that come out and support it. And you're talking about jam-packed crowds every night, 24,000. It's really. I would say a very underrated city in that regard in terms of how they get along. And, I don't know if there are any Better Call Saul fans out there, but I haven't found Gene Takovic yet. But I did drive by some houses where it looked like he may have robbed in that series.
Oh, throwing some great shady references there. I love it. Yes. But yeah, and Omaha is the College World Series is unique because the NCAA tournament gets moved around in different places. Everything gets moved around. Football gets moved around. This is something that doesn't and shouldn't, because number one, they know how to do it. They know how to do it so well, and they do it so well. And this is a deal that needs to stay in one place.
Yeah, and I went to the last one in Rosenblatt in 2010, but they've really done a super job with this stadium downtown. I mean, it's a gorgeous, modern facility. And it's an interesting ballpark, too, because when the wind is blowing in, it's a pretty hard place to hit the ball out of. I mean, it's a bigger park. It's 408 in dead center, 330 down the line, 375 in the power alley. So it's got some major league dimensions to it. And, I mean, the grass is beautiful, and they've just done a really good job with that stadium downtown. And, obviously everything is within walking distance. So it's really become this great festival atmosphere. And, there's enough parking space. You see guys tailgating down at the parking lot, and they really enjoy it. It's right across the street from, that huge natatorium where they hold the Olympic trials, and then the convention center where Creighton plays too. So I remember I ran into some Creighton basketball fans here a couple of years ago, and you know what their cheer? They have this weird cheer because of the Blue Jays. They have their cheer is peck, 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 get some seed.
I was there for a rodeo, working in professional rodeo in the media department at Omaha. It was a big event, but I saw Elvis's daughter in concert. I mean, which is just weird. She just happened to be doing it, but yeah, that was wild.
Lisa Marie, the late Lisa Marie Presley, which is something. But it's just really good city, and it's been really good baseball. 6 of the 8 games have been decided by one run, Jim. It's been a really fascinating series. I mean, Florida has had an interesting ride in the fact that, in their first game, they rallied for 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th to beat Virginia. Then in the second game, they had a 5-1 lead, and they barely held on 5-4. Their coach, Kevin O'Sullivan, actually made too many mound visits. He went out and was forced to pull his closer, and they had to bring in a freshman with a 5-3 lead, and the freshman barely got it done. I mean, there were 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, runners on first and third, and a kind of like a deep shot hit to center field, but the center fielder made a catch. So it's a big escape for Florida, and they're in a really good spot right now, being 2-0, them and Wake Forest. I think that's really the key to this event is a double elimination event. But if you go 2-0, you get 2 days off, Monday, Tuesday, and your pitching sets up really well for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, how fun is it for you to get to go cover this? Because it's not often. It's not a lot of people that get to go cover the College World Series, man. I mean, you when you were at Indiana, you got to cover the NCAA and basketball and all that. But this is a different type of deal, a different vibe.
Yeah, and I've done 5 of them. This is my 5th, and I covered the national championship series in 2017. I wasn't there for the whole time in 2017. I just did the championship series that year. But it really is, Jim. It's it's a long event, and it's kind of weird because you don't know how long you're going to stay. So the good thing about this hotel is you have laundry. So I actually did some laundry last night.
But they have breakfast.
And they have free breakfast. So
you don't pass up. You don't pass that up. I know you don't pass a meal up.
I know you know Jim, but it's been a very so far. It's crazy. I've been here for about 5 or 6 days already, and it could be with the way Florida's going. The final series, the last game of the final series will be Monday, so it could be a 13-day stay out here. So you really get to know all the local spots and. Hopefully I can find a karaoke place. We'll see. But I did go to Casio's for steak, and that's a great place. The Drover is another great steakhouse out here that I might be able to check out before the trip is through. So it's been a lot of fun.
Let's see who was someone asked. Sorry, passed by, but Fred asked who you're picking, which he's not picking anybody because he's covering them, but. I would imagine since you're covering Florida, that's who your favorite is. But do you have a favorite to win it? Not picking, but.
I picked before the tournament began, I picked Florida and LSU, and I picked LSU to win it. But LSU's on pretty shaky ground now. So it's looking like, Wake Forest might be. Wake Forest and Florida are the number 1 and number 2 national seeds, and LSU was 5th. Oral Roberts has been a really scrappy team. I mean, they gave Florida all they can handle. It'll be interesting to see if they can, get out of the losers bracket today and win and get another shot at Florida, because they've really got some mojo going. They've got a veteran team. They're a really tough lineup. They've got an All-American closer. I guess my big question with Oral Roberts, if they did win today, would be, do they have enough pitching? And they were another team that rallied late in their first game. I mean, TCU, too. I mean, they could come out of the bracket today. They might be a little dangerous. They're another team that's been hot late in the year. But I think Florida and Wake Forest are in a pretty good spot right now to meet in the final series.
Why should baseball fans just, travel to go see the World Series, the College World Series, without having a team in it? You've gotten to see a lot of the things. So for the casual fan who doesn't have a team in it, why should they go see the College World Series?
Oh, just the atmosphere, and the stadium, like I said before, is beautiful, and it's downtown, and, just watching these kids compete and these kids play, and it's, they really put everything out on the line. And I think we've seen that, like I said, in this tournament with never one-run games. You have that sense of desperation, even though it's not a one and done like the NCAA tournament. It's still, two, and I think these guys know that their season on the line. They play with that sense of desperation and urgency, and it's just, like I said, a really fun event. And it's you can walk around from the ballpark and to different bars and restaurants. And another funny thing they do here, Jim, they do the Jello shot challenge.
I saw that.
And I contributed with 2 for Florida, but LSU was running away with it. I think LSU is over 20,000.
21,000. But that's because the founder of Raising Cane must have bought a bunch. Ole Miss held the record before that with like 17,000 purchased Jello shots at this place there, I guess. It looks like, it's going to be fun. So we'll watch the rest of that and see how it goes. Games are on today and tonight, so you can check those out. And then Florida playing. The NBA draft coming up this Thursday, of course. We talked earlier, Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino from Indiana, and the only local guys I can think of at the moment. But Jalen Hood-Schifino is obviously going to be the highest pick. Romeo Langford, he's going to have some happiness because he's going to be playing with Victor Wembanyama if he's still on the roster next year.
Oh, yeah, no question. No, that worked out pretty well for San Antonio to get those lottery balls. And well, where do you think Hood-Schifino is going to go? I've seen, 14, 15, 13. Is he going to go in that neighborhood? Could he go a little higher, or where do you think he'll go in the first round?
I think he's going to go anywhere from 13 to 12 to 16, right in that area. But I just was talking with Mike DeCourcy, and Matt Norlander had just put his out, but he acknowledged that his was a little different, but he had him up as high as 8th, which I don't think that's going to be the case, but we'll see. But he's a legitimate prospect, and you just see everything about him, his life, everything he does. I mean, how he eats. He's been training to be a professional for a while. In every regard in his life, in his workouts, and like I said, in his diet. He uses organic deodorant, for God's sakes. Everything, and I mean that he is, everything he does is with thought and with thought in that direction. So he's primed. His mind is primed to do the job at hand.
Where do you think Trace is going to go? What's the read on him?
Everything I've seen has him in the second round, mid to late, and because of he's done a lot of workouts, so they get to see stuff that we don't get to see, and you just have to impress one team. And that's all that matters. And so, but I still think he's going to be a mid to late second round pick.
Yeah. And I mean, that would be good for him. I mean, he stayed 4 years. He really gave his all to Indiana. I think that that would be a nice reward to see him, get an opportunity and to get latched on with the team. And he will be remembered if the trajectory continues upward as the guy that brought Indiana basketball back. Hey, what do you think about the news about J.D. Campbell stepping away and retiring, longtime PR guy at Indiana basketball?
I think that's a huge loss for Indiana, and I was going to mention that later. I'm glad you brought that up, but huge loss for Indiana, huge loss for Indiana basketball, huge loss for us in the media, because he was great, is great to work with, treated everyone with respect, and he was just great in his job. And what he did was he was basically the sports information director for basketball, which is a job that is more stressful than I think people can imagine. He had to go through a heart situation this year, and that's a stressful job. He's probably in his best place he's ever been right now with Mike Woodson, because Mike Woodson is the least stressing coach I've been around that they've had here recently. But so he finally got to be in a relaxing situation. But I promise you, the two prior coaches were not easy on his life.
No question. Yeah, I think, in my 4 years, almost 4 years in dealing with JD, stand-up guy, was fairly helpful. And I don't think people realize, I was talking to another reporter about this, about, you go inside that Indiana press room, that post-game press room, and it's, looks like the United Nations. It's huge there. The number of seats that you have, the number of media that you have to deal with throughout the state. I mean, Indiana basketball really is a public trust throughout the state. So that's a very important job that JD had for a number of years, being the conduit between us and the coaches and the players. And I always thought that he was a guy that shot it straight with you and was someone that was helpful and gave you information when it was needed. He didn't always give you information, but when he did, it was very helpful. So I wish him well. I wish him and his family well. I know obviously he did have that health scare last fall, and maybe obviously time for him to take a step back and enjoy his family. And I hope hopefully he'll breeze into something different or maybe retirement very well.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be missed, just like you are, my friend. But you're having a good time out in Omaha.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Peyton was at one of the games on Saturday.
I saw that.
Watching the Vols play, and it's been, like I said, it's always you never know who you're going to run into here, and it's a great postseason event, and we'll see if more Gator fans show up if they get into the final series. It's a really expensive trip, so I'm not going to rip fans for not going. I mean, LSU fans are just kind of a different animal in that regard. They usually fill this place up. There's been a lot of Wake Forest fans here, but we'll see what happens, next weekend for the final series. And, if 3 more wins, then Florida will have its second national championship in baseball. Their first one was in 2017. So Kevin O'Sullivan has done a really masterful job here in 15 years. Building a program that's in the mix for most years. I mean, he's been to the College World Series 8 times. So they're always kind of in contention. And I think this year they have a real shot. I mean, Wyatt Langford, one of their sluggers, remember that name. He could go number 1 overall, the Pirates in the draft, or probably somewhere in the top 5, maybe to the Twins, maybe to the Detroit Tigers. There's some high school kid in Indiana I see that's in the top 5. Max Clark, are you familiar with him? A high school kid that might go in the top 5 in the June amateur draft as well. That's kind of interesting.
Always is. Brother, have fun. We look forward to catching up with you again.
All right.
Enjoy it. The great Kevin Brockway, K-Bro, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat from Omaha, where the college side of the College World Series. We're back with more. Chronic Hoosier joins us up next.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
No worries.
Have fun. What's up, Chronic?
What's going on?
When did the thing about JD come out?
couple days ago, I think.
I'm like going through my emails. Well, damn it, there it is. There's too many emails come out. I get too many emails. Daggone, June 30th, man.
The last holdout from the Rick Greenspan era.
Is that right? Man, how long has he been here?
I think 07 or 08, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe, yeah, it had to be.
He was here for Crean.
Yeah, no, I think he predated Crean, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you meant 2007 or 8.
Yep.
That's a run, man. That's a hard job.
It's not easy, no, especially in that program. It's
especially when he was going through it there towards the end with Crean and all of Archie Miller.
Yes. Yep.
Gee whiz, no wonder he had a heart attack.
Yeah, it's you look at White House press secretaries, they don't stick around that long. It's just a lot of stress.
Well, that's Chuck Crabb. Let's see, well, that's
Kit Klingelhofer.
Well, Kit, yeah, at least I get to see Kit, but he just had a heart deal.
Yeah.
Open heart surgery. But Don Fisher's the last of the Mohicans.
He's the OG.
I mean, he is the last of the old guard, isn't he?
The difference is Don gets to spend the majority of his year golfing.
Yep.
And I think that'll help anybody live a little bit longer.
And he loves it. How have you been, man? What's new with you?
Not a thing, man. Not a thing. Getting ready to set a daughter free on the road solo come tomorrow. So we are counting down the hours till my girl gets her license.
Oh, man.
And I officially get to check out of the chauffeur business.
Yeah. I remember when Kylie got hers. Scary, but she does a great job. She's a better driver than I am.
I think Viv's got, I don't know how many hundreds of hours under her belt, but she's a pro. I've put her in a lot of uncomfortable positions, and she's done well at every turn. No pun intended.
Bing.
All right, here we go, guys.
Corner of Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington offers a variety of freshly made fare, tying their roots in limestone with their love of Southern eateries. With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious, 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this beautiful Tuesday. It's June 20th. Welcome aboard, Karate Hoosier. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Each week I laugh at some of the comments, people trying to guess who you are. And Brian Evans kept popping up, and I'm like, no, it's not that.
People don't know this. I'm really Ivan Rinko in real life.
It's out. Daggone it. I wasn't going to spill the beans, but there it is. It's out.
No, it was funny. I got a message from Galen Clavio last week where he had shared with me a message he got basically accusing him of being me. And we both kind of chuckled about it. And I took a step back. I'm like, has this person ever considered the dozens of podcasts we've done together? Or are you supposed to be like some ventriloquist who's just throwing his voice from one mic to the next? Like I'm genuinely curious. How does that work? No, it's funny. I've been accused of being Zach Osterman and many other noble gentlemen, and I am none of the
Even
above.
though
I
you do
promise you that.
podcasts with him as well.
Yes, he too is a ventriloquist.
Yeah, Zach on with us each Friday, but actually it's Chronic Hoosier Zach's doing 2 jobs. No, just kidding.
It's like the Dread Pirate Roberts. It's many men have worn the same mask over the years.
And loving it. How did this get started? I don't know. We've ever talked about that.
I'm an idiot. I think that's the root cause of everything. No,
How were you smart enough to maintain your anonymity? That's the thing. To in the beginning, before it blows up, you were smart enough to keep your anonymity.
I often explain I'm one of those dudes who kind of has one foot on both sides of the technological divide. When I started high school, we were still buying encyclopedias from door-to-door salespeople, like actually Encyclopedia Britannicas. And my parents always made sure we had a fresh set and kept us in, full of knowledge. And then I get to high school, and my senior year, James Huffington donates this marvelous library on the shores of Lake Maxinkuckee, and the crown jewel is this massive room that's got this automated system that can retrieve CD-ROMs and insert them into the computer for you, so you never actually have to touch the disk. And by the time I get to college, everything is online at this point. So I think that explains a lot for me personally, because I do have enough technical savvy that I was able to engage in a lot of the internet forums as they were coming online. And it was perfect time for me as the chat room started to pop up, newspapers start going online. I found myself on the other side of the country in grad school out in Portland, Oregon, just dying, just absolutely starving for news about Indiana, because I can't get the paper out there. At least I couldn't afford to. So it's a great way to keep connected. And emailing was a whole lot cheaper than long distance phone calls back then. So I just kind of got accustomed to going online for my IU news and typing out my conversations rather than having them verbally with my friends, because I couldn't afford it. And tons of credit to Chris Corman, Dustin DePiriac over at the Herald Times back in the day, who really got that outfit engaged online, and even more credit probably to the Doug Wilson, the former sports editor, who hired both of those guys for having the vision to see where this was going and what it was going to take to put them in a position to excel in that area for basically the school's paper of record. And it just took off from there. It was something tongue in cheek, where I recognize I say a lot of stupid stuff, and I do it for fun. This isn't anything I've ever made any money off of. I've got a couple of free tickets on a couple of occasions, but that's really about it. And some gift cards from some awesome radio show hosts, but and some liquor. But no, it's been something that I've enjoyed doing, but at the same time, like everybody else, I do enjoy my privacy, and it's probably the worst kept secret in Bloomington at this point, but it's at least a veil that I, for whatever reason, stay behind. I don't know, man. I've often thought about
fun. It brings something to it at the end, and it actually makes it more fun, I think.
It's the Dread Pirate Roberts. I'm telling you, you never know when I'm going to pop up.
We couldn't appreciate it more. You also just put something in my mind. Now, how do you pronounce Dustin's last name? Is it
Dope Sack? Dustin Dope Sack. Dopiriac.
I will say this. When I first started having him on as a guest a long time ago, years ago, and he never corrected me. I said, I think I pronounced it as Dopirac.
Yeah, Dopirac, Dope Sack.
He never corrected me. Someone finally did, and I've been saying Depiric ever since, but you just said Depiriac. So now I'm like, all right, am I still saying it incorrectly?
I'm probably screwing it up, Jim. I'm not going to lie, man. I have this amazing super ability that if there's any way you can, guess wrong phonetically, I can guess wrong 100% of the time, every time. That's my superhero trait.
That's why I'm probably just going in a different direction wrong now.
I just have a knack for putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Exactly. One name that's easy for me to say is J.D. Campbell. We talked about him a minute ago with Kevin Brockway. I know that with your long time being around Indiana University sports, well aware of JD and his job, the stresses of his job.
I'm telling you, people, that's a stressful job being the guard to any major program head coach. Whether it's Saban at Alabama, Indiana basketball coach is that same. It's that same thing, and that brings a lot of stinking pressure, man, from those coaches, from media, there's a lot of pressure in that job.
No doubt, man. It's probably as closely followed as any position in the state, quite honestly. You look at the average press conference that the governor holds, watch the crowd Mike Woodson commands whenever he takes the mic and speaks publicly. There's no doubt the eyes of Indiana are always on that office, on that seat, in that gym. And, JD's role, like many before him, as the SID, that's the point person responsible for providing the information, but also trying to protect the program. And I am sure it's a very difficult job to balance those interests. Not the least of which, it's a real difficult job just to balance life in sports. I know quite a few people who work in athletics pretty closely, and their families. And I can't tell you how many times they've been able to fill in and help out with my kids, and likewise on their side, because they are constantly on the road in season and out, and a lot of time away from home, a lot of time away from the office. Some really, I work some terrible hours, real irregular schedule. Those guys make me look like a banker, quite honestly. So appreciate what he did for Indiana over the many, many years. As I mentioned, he's, I believe, one of the last holdouts from the Rick Greenspan era, which is no small feat in and of itself. But I'm real curious to see who fills that role going forward, and how they embrace it. One thing I have always, in full disclosure, about 2 decades ago, I tried very hard to get on board at IU athletics. Everybody tells you make your love your profession, and you'll never work a day in your life. And for a long time, I thought that was the route to go. And for all of Indiana's ups and downs, which can make that job difficult when the team's not performing well, not putting up the W's. I've always been fascinated with the players since I was a little kid. My dad played ball at IU. I've been fortunate to spend most of my life at pretty close proximity to it, and always loved, seeing the personalities behind the jerseys, and following those guys. One of the things about growing up in small town Indiana is you have a lot of idols that some are fortunate enough to make the ascension up the ranks, and those that come to IU were pretty much gods in our eyes back then. So you bring some of that starstruckness with you on campus, and next thing you know, you're sitting in class next to IU basketball players and football players and the whole like. And then you realize there's a boatload of Olympic sport athletes that are all around you, and these are your peers, and you come to see them as people rather than just players, and all the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows and the struggles they go through. And it's always been one of the fascinating parts to me. And I really hope, especially in this day of NIL, that they really embrace that and tell those personal stories, because one thing Indiana fans have proven time and time again, they will absolutely support and embrace and lift up these kids who do choose to come to Indiana and put on the jersey, make those sacrifices. And no matter what the team's doing, I never, ever forget there's people behind those jerseys, and they deserve your support, quite honestly. And there's a lot of really amazing stories to tell there. And I hope whoever fills that role next puts that front and center, because I think that's ultimately one of the best things about this new era of NIL is these kids get to be their own brand, and they can craft that and shape that. And it's something to nurture and grow rather than to shield and hide. And for many years, it seemed like that was kind of the default setting, was just keep everything short, sweet, and as little as possible when it came to how much exposure these got, until they got the trust within the department that they weren't going to say something stupid. And I think as we've seen, as things have opened up, there's a lot of really smart kids with a lot of really great insights, and they've got stories worth listening to.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never knew that about you and IU. That's something that I didn't know, but you have
other than being really intelligent, you always have a great grasp on the situation, whatever we're talking about, and you're able to do so without doing it from a fan perspective, which is important, because if you can't do that, then you're not really going to have a very good discussion.
Don't make no mistake, I can be as irrational as any Hoosier out there. It's normally a product of my BAC and how'd we do last game? What's our streak look like right now? But no, I mean, I love that's where this all came from, quite honestly. I love talking Hoosiers. I love talking, period, but there's few things I love talking about more than Indiana. And it's one of those things that binds us all. It's a common thread that's really woven throughout our entire community across the state. And no matter what we may, different religions, different politics, everything else, I love the fact that it's something that binds us, that we can share together. I love the fact that it's something that I've been able to share with my family and my friends, over the course of my entire life. So, trying to be the level-headed one sometimes helps moderate some of the opinions a little bit, but don't get me wrong, I get a whole lot more irrational once the season kicks off, as we're all well aware.
And I want to take time right now to make sure that everybody knows how thankful I am for you, because we've been on for like 7 years, and you've been one of the guys that's been there from the beginning. I remember first talking to you, or maybe it was texting, but I was on 150 going through Paoli. I remember it just like it was yesterday for some reason. I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but I'm so thankful for you, because you always just bring great stuff. It's just fun. The conversation is just fun and enjoyable, and I cannot thank you enough.
I appreciate you letting me talk Hoosiers with you, Jim. It's always a good time.
You always bring the best, man. So speaking of which, you've got the draft coming up. We talked about this a lot today, but Jalen Hoosier, obviously a first-round pick. Trace Jackson Davis, most of us are thinking he's going to be somewhere in the second round, but I don't know Jack. They have all had workouts. Trace Jackson, of course, more workouts than Jalen Hoosier, but both of them are going to get drafted. And the boon in recruiting, Indiana is really going through. I talked about this the other day. The recruits that Woody has had in over the last couple of weeks, it's staggering how elite this talent is. And no, you're not going to get them all, but you don't have to. You just got to get a couple of these guys, and it's just going to be a domino effect now, and that's what it takes. That's what Indiana used to be. It wasn't. They weren't known for producing pros, but they still did it, and they're still doing it today, because if they get these two players drafted and everything stays the same, Indiana will have 8 former Hoosiers in the NBA, and that would lead the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's nothing short of remarkable. I mean, we said it last week or the week prior, I can't remember which. But the way that this team, this staff, has been able to seize the momentum and withstand some lows. There were some misses early in the portal that had a lot of fans kind of despondent, wondering, after the excitement of Khalil Ware, whether or not this was it. And the departures started to outweigh the arrivals, and now everybody's freaking out with the loss of minutes. And next thing you know, Mike Woodson and staff are retooling as strong as anybody in the country, just about. And the way that momentum is carried over into the 24 class and the 25 class, now that coaches are live with them as of this week, if I'm not mistaken. Now they can have direct contact with 25 recruits. Indiana basketball is sexy again, and in no small part because of the success of Trace Jackson Davis over a 4-year career, and probably just as importantly, if not more so, what Jalen Hood-Schifino has proven he's capable of doing here after just 1 year in Bloomington. And I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. That's about the perfect scenario for Indiana, proving that you can develop guys who pretty much, got pigeonholed in Trace's case, where a lot of folks just thought he's a back to the basket post player with no jumper. That's it. The way that Woodson got him to start playing off the bounce, got really creative with him, especially we saw late last season as they got into more pick and roll situations. I think just expanded traces horizons infinitely, quite honestly, when it comes to his pro prospects. And then with Pheno, man, if you want to get a 5-star player on campus, you've got to give them reason to believe that they're going to be able to make the leap on schedule with you. And I don't know that, I'd have to go back and check. I don't know how many draft boards had him as a first rounder coming out of high school. But I think it's safe to say he elevated his stock in his short time at Indiana. And that will likely continue to pay dividends for the Hoosiers for some time here, at least until the momentum swings the other way. And that's the thing about momentum, man. It is fickle as all get out. But right now, make no mistake, Indiana's got it. And they are certainly capitalizing on it with the number of visits they've been able to achieve. And, as those commitments start coming here shortly for the 24s, and we're just about on the cusp of it, I think you're going to start seeing those kids start popping here over the coming month as the AAU season gets going in full speed here. That momentum's just going to keep on snowballing for Indiana. Just watch.
Well, the word that you just used that is just could not put it more succinctly, sexy. Indiana basketball is just that. It's sexy again. And that's what it takes, because that's what Duke has been. They were the sexy. Kansas was the sexy. It was Kentucky the sexy. And it is cyclical, but it takes the right moves to make it that. And you've got to give Scott Dolson a ton of credit, because Mike Woodson was not looked at as a universal hit. And buddy, especially the scares with recruiting. Well, who's out recruiting him right now? I mean, you got to land him, and I know that, but who's out recruiting him right now? I'm not seeing that. There's no 24-year-old that's kicking his butt.
No, and I'll tell you what, I saw a lot of questions being raised when Indiana tabbed Mike Woodson to be its next head coach. Having been, out of the NBA spotlight for a couple of years, I think a lot of it was kind of his age. A lot of it is kind of Indiana's belief that we deserve to have the next Bob Knight every time we make coaching hire. That 20-something guy that's just a savant that has yet to be uncovered, or at least given the big shot. And I think the sneaky part about the Mike Woodson pick was just the total package that he brings. There's long been a camp that believed Indiana should only be coached by an Indiana alum. And I'm a little agnostic on that one, to be honest. Mainly because that was the excuse to justify bringing Steve Alford back at every opportunity. That was why his name kept getting pulled up. But the thing about Woody is not only is he alum, he is one of Bob Knight's dearest players. Always has been since he's been on campus here. Those principles, those traditions that have carried over, not the least of which is you come here to be a student first, basketball player second. But so much of the instruction that goes beyond the basketball court, the majority of it that goes beyond the basketball court, that matters to recruits' parents more than anything, quite honestly. Everybody wants to see their kids succeed on the court, but parents want to see their kids be successful in life, because most parents, I think, even the money hungriest ones know there's going to have to be a life after basketball. And you look at the way that Bob Knight was able to impart that on the families he recruited, because you're recruiting the family, you're not just recruiting the player. And I think that's something that some of Indiana coaches have struggled to learn over the years. Mike Woodson clearly has a grasp on it. But you couple all that with the fact that he spent the majority of his life either playing or coaching in the NBA at the highest levels, and the dude just commands an immense amount of respect in basketball circles, and it really proved to be a lethal package. And I think a lot of folks who question his age and the energy and continue to. I'm not going to start throwing daggers at specific names here, but some of the message boards continue to be a little bit harsh on a coach and maybe underselling his efforts. Well, you can say what you want. You can track his travel. You can track his tee times. They're getting it done. And, recognizing recruiting is not an individual sport either. It's a team game. And the staff that Woodson's been able to put in place is clearly proven to be remarkably effective in that goal. And you can go down the line. Obviously, Brian Walsh, one of the hot young stars in coaching circles. Adam Howard along those lines. You got Jordan Halls back on staff. You got Calbert Cheney back on staff. I mean, it's just a really, really unique, diverse assemblage of recruiters. And I think the big thing among all of them is they share that holistic approach to what it means to be an Indiana basketball player and to be recruited by Indiana basketball. And I think when you look at how culture's developed, having those baselines, those foundations in place, and how you approach things, that's where the culture is going to come from. And I think you're going to see that culture become more evident in each of the coming years here as the turn starts to intensify a little bit, because you start getting in these waters and you're going to start seeing a whole lot less roster continuity from year to year, either through attrition to the NBA or through the transfer portal, because these guys, they know who's coming for their minutes. They play enough open gym together with the recruits. They get a pretty good sense of what the minutes are going to look like coming up. So keeping a core culture in place is going to be absolutely essential if you want to have continued success. And I think this is a staff that wholly embraces that, understands that, and uses that to guide them in how they go about their things.
Yeah, and as far as worrying about the next coach being an IU alum or not, I think that is all but a guarantee, because I just quickly wrote down Michael Lewis, Calbert Cheney, Keith Smart, Dusty May. You're not getting past those four names as all being potentials for that job. So anybody outside of that, man, they probably just don't even have a chance.
I'll tell you what, man, I liken it to the recruiting philosophy, though. You know, we have long kind of put a premium on Indiana guys, and don't get me wrong. You know, I've got a jersey that's got all but a couple of the Indiana Mr. Basketball winners that played at IU.
Wow.
You know, again, going back to my legends, my heroes when I was a kid, and what that meant. And I still very much hold some of those feelings, but I also recognize, you know, you're probably going to do better off if you're out there recruiting the Monteverde All-Stars as opposed to the Indiana All-Stars. So I would probably extend that approach to coaching. You go out and get the best guy possible. And obviously that's a complex equation of what generates the best candidate. But if you get somebody better than those names you just mentioned, I'd say you're doing pretty darn good.
Yeah, you won't have to worry about it. Chronic Hoosier, can't thank you enough, brother. It's been a fun one as always.
Hey, thanks for having me on. We'll catch you guys next week.
Have a great one, brother. Chronic Hoosier joining us on Indiana Sports Beat. We've got to take a quick break, and we're back to finish it out.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the... You didn't yell at me. Yes.
Well, I mean, that was the last. We weren't up against anything hard or anything.
I know, but I was waiting for the little...
I only do it usually if
I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. Hey, I'm not complaining. I'd rather it be that way than the other way.
I didn't say you were complaining.
No. I know. I just want to make sure you know I'm grateful, because I would much rather it's that way than the other way. But yeah, you know, no, I miss it. See, that's another thing. You know, I can't stand when. Dude, you got to start grooming somebody, because boy,
I actually was want to talk about that in general. Like I need you to
not now,
somebody
not
else.
not now.
I mean in detail, but like we need to look for somebody who wants to learn the show.
Yeah,
if you can find another, I don't know, it doesn't have to be a student. Honestly, preferably someone who isn't a student, because when school rolls around is the most difficult to find help.
You know what? We need to talk to Joe to see if there's anybody there
that he knows. Yeah,
that is into what he's doing.
Yeah,
because he would know now. Now he'll know more people. Last year he didn't, because that was his first year there.
You'll have about 9 or 10 minutes when we come back.
I'll have whatever I want. Purdue's courses are not bad, Michael. I have never played either of them, but the fact that they have two that are freaking incredible, it's unbelievable. What the crap? Oh. 4 7.
All right, 30 seconds.
Bloomington near Cabello is locally owned and operated by Endeavor Hospitality Group. Launched from a previous staple in Bloomington, the former Function Brewery, Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle here. Hope you had a great day and a good start to your week on this Tuesday. College baseball happening with the game this afternoon and going on, and then one this evening that starts at 7. So looking forward to watching those. I loved it, man. It's both of these games tonight are elimination games. The losers are gone. LSU, Tennessee, and TCU, Oregon. Wonder if Peyton will be back in Omaha. Omaha! I wonder how much money he still gets from. I bet surely he has a promotion with Omaha Steaks, right? I would. Joey Votto, of course, makes a triumphant return for our Cincinnati Reds. Oh, I meant to ask Chronic. I thought he might be the only Reds fan. I need to get Kit on. Kit Klingelhofer, the former sports information director for IU, is a big Reds fan. He went out to the game at I'm losing it, John Boy. The Field of Dreams game.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yep.
Yeah, couldn't think of it. He was out there for that earlier this year. Man, that would have been awesome. I was hoping to go out and do the show out there. But, yeah, the Reds, winners of 9 straight, baby. Winners of 9 straight. Do they keep rolling? We'll see. What are they? I think they're in a series with Colorado right now. That's who they beat last night, I believe. Double check that. Yeah, they do. Tonight, 7-10. Reds are at home against the Rockies. So, yeah, they won those 8 games on the road on top of that. A sweep of the last year's World Series champion Houston Astros. What the hell's going on in Cincinnati, baby? I don't know, but I'm loving it. I'm not a gigantic baseball fan, but that's the only childhood sports team professional that I have. The LA Rams were my football team when I was a kid, but once they moved to St. Louis, I dumped them. So, and then the Colts came along, but the Reds are that baked into when you're a kid. And that's the thing about baseball. That's why it is so baked into most guys, is because you play it from the time when you're a kid. T-ball, Little League, summer. And it's the thing you do every year. It was America's pastime, but now that's football. And soccer has made such a dent. And speaking of soccer, when I was growing up, I had no respect for soccer because I didn't know the game.
We didn't have it yet at my high school at Floyd Central. That soccer was not a sport yet. Well, it was a sport, but it was not a sport being played actively. And I always thought it was a wimpy sport, which is completely wrong until I took my daughter to see a professional game. And I was like, whoa. Watching the incredible athletic ability of those guys. But more importantly, the incredible elite play at nonstop, hard. That's a difference in as you go up, and that's what makes it so much more fun. The College World Series, they get to use aluminum bats. It would not be nearly as fun if we were watching this thing and they're using wooden bats, because they would not be able to get around on a lot of these pitches. That's why, unlike basketball, when you see a guy can go from college and start next year, you don't see that in baseball. Baseball is hard. That's why you've got single A or rookie ball, single A, double A, triple A, then the majors. It's hard. You have to learn that game. Oh, how about that shout out, Robert? Roman Gabriel, going way back, baby. He actually, I'm going to say he kind of predated me, thankfully. I was more of a Pat Hayden was my era on the Rams. Pat Hayden had Eric Dickerson, Ham, Lambert. No, was that Steelers? I'm getting confused. But fun times regardless. But yeah, I got to see the Big Red Machine when I was a kid. That was awesome. I saw Johnny Bench play. I saw Pete Rose play, Tony Perez, Joe Morgan, Dave Concepcion. I took the number 41 in my athletics from Tom Seaver, who K-Bro would love that, since Tom Terrific was a former Met who helped lead them to their only World Series title, I believe. But the Cardinals, they play tonight as well. They're playing the Nationals. They're on the road. The Cubs and the Pirates, interdivisional game. That's also at 7:05. Chicago is at Pittsburgh for that. Let's see. Tomorrow I know Rick Bozich will be on. Man, the Reds are doing better than his White Sox for certain. But that's got, and I remember, and Mike DeCourcy mentioning Brian Snow being at Notre Dame. That's because he left, and it dawned on me, he left Penn State with Micah Shrewsbury, who is, and I put out a tweet earlier this year, a list of Indiana, the coaches, John, that are at all these schools that are Indiana natives. And I don't want to put it out again until I'm going to have to do research, because the guy at Evansville is, and now there's more. And just finding this list of IU Indiana base coaches. And then there's AJ Moyer's an assistant at Valpo. You got Keith Smart's an assistant at Arkansas. It's a deep list. I'm going to have to check into that. But what a blast it was today, man. You're not having fun right now, though, are you? Because you're wanting me to leave you alone so you can finish up working.
No, I mean, we're actually only got about a minute and a half left, but let's remind everybody of the special guest coming on tomorrow.
Oh, yes, let's do. First of all, the guest list.
That's tomorrow. Right. Yeah, you mentioned Rick Bozich and Kyle Nedrip. They'll be on per usual. And then we'll have a special appearance once again by former Indiana head coach Tom Crean.
That's right. So looking forward to that. He's always so gracious with us. We greatly appreciate him. Talk to him about the upcoming draft. Not only that, but he just had 3 players play for a ring, man. He's got to be proud of that. He's of the Indiana players that are in the NBA, there are 6 of them currently. 4 of them are still Crean's players. That's a good testament. When one of them was in there before he got here.
30.
So lots to talk about tomorrow. Looking forward to it. I cannot thank everybody today. It was awesome. Kevin Brockway, Mike DeCourcy, Chronic Hoosier, JTP as well. Most importantly, you guys, without you, we have no reason to be here, and we're so grateful that you give us one. Looking forward to being back tomorrow to do it again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.